My mom used to tell me this story about when I was younger, how I used to try to make a round peg fill in the square hole when I was taking this test. And she said, no matter how much I tried over and over and over again and seen that peg would not fit, I kept trying to make it. What does it have to do with what I'm about to talk about tonight? I promise I am going to tie it all in once I get to the end of this. But in this video, I am going to talk about a few times when I knew the guy wasn't my guy and I stayed anyway. And since coming to know these patterns, I've decided that this year I will not repeat or not stay at even the slightest hint of the pattern starting to repeat, because I cannot afford to have a year like I had last year. So the first time I knew the guy wasn't my guy, but I decided to stay anyway because I thought that if I was just understanding enough, that eventually he would grow past this certain point and it would all work out. And also due to my ego of thinking that, oh, I'm the exception. There's no way, this could end badly because I'm a good person. I feel like I'm a good woman, understanding woman, and it'll work out. So the first situation in particular that I'm thinking about is the time where I was in a relationship with this guy, and we were casually walking and talking, and I was sharing with him about some of my goals. I had just got back from deployment, and I was sharing with him about my goals, my financial goals, and like pretty much giving him like a rundown of where I saw myself in 5 years as far as it related to my finances. At this point, me and him had been in a relationship for like almost 3 years at this point. And so we real locked in. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm sharing my goals with my man. What's the harm in that? So I told him how much money I was currently making. And he was still kind of quiet and silent. But when I told him how much I was currently making, he just kind of snapped. He was like, you don't need to make that much money. And I kind of looked and I kind of like smiled out of awkwardness, because it was awkward, because I just couldn't understand like where the energy was coming from. But I later learned that he wasn't comfortable with me making that amount of money because I was making more than he was, and he was a man, and I guess that made him feel like he wouldn't be able to provide for me. I don't know, but whatever the case was, whatever the reason was, that should have been a clear sign and a clear indicator that it just would not work. But I stayed anyway because, again, I'm thinking, he didn't mean it that way. If I just be understanding about him not meaning it the way it came out or the way it came across, it'll work out. It didn't work out. And the relationship actually ended horribly. Not so bad to the point where I wasn't able to remain like cordial, and we even had sort of a level of friendship even after that point, after the relationship ended, not after the point of him getting upset about me making more than him, because we still dated for like maybe 7 months, or still was in a relationship 7 months after that incident happened. But after we completely broke it off, the thing that caused it to break off horribly is something that I may talk about another time. But even after it broke up as horribly as it did, I still was able to maintain a relationship with him. And this is kind of veering off the topic of this video, but I just want to, do a little ad lib in there. I'm the type of person that if a man handles me with integrity, even if it ends because ultimately we're not aligned, I can still maintain a friendship with him because he handled me with integrity. But if a man doesn't handle me with integrity and it ends horribly, likely, I can't. I have enough respect for myself never to talk to that person again, because lying is bad, yes. And depending on why you're lying, I may be able to forgive if at some point you eventually tell me the truth. Because I'll never ask a question that I don't already know the answer to. I'll never present a frame a question in a way or present information in a way when I don't already know the truth or have concrete, solid proof that in fact that what I'm presenting to you is the truth. And I can understand someone lying initially about that, but continuing to lie maliciously to the point of where it is causing me harm that I can never recover from, those type of men, I'm not able to maintain a friendship with after things end. But anyway, back to the story. So when he did that, I tried to be understanding of it. And that should have been my first sign. And it was a sign, but I just allowed my want for it to work out, or my hope in it working out, to override my intuition, and to override myself of being able to see it was for what it really was, the situation for what it really was. So I shared that story because I didn't learn enough. Or the lesson didn't stick, because it happened again. That was my last relationship. So my last relationship was in beginning of 2019 is when I had my real last relationship. Anything since has been like a situationship, but I haven't been in a really real relationship since then. Been deceived into thinking I was in one before, but that was my last real one. So the next situationship I got into, it was the pattern coming back up to show itself. And the guy tried to humble me in multiple ways. He made statements like, I think I was talking to him about my financial goals at one point too. He said, he made some quippy comment about, since you're making all this money, and he would say stuff like, you don't look as good as you think you do. But this is a man who pursued me for quite a long time, and he would make that comment, and that should have been my sign. But again, in that situation, I allowed my hope to override the reality for what it really was. And by that time, for whatever reason, the lesson just was not sticking. It just was not sticking. So at the end of last year, when I went on a date with this guy, and we were sitting there at the table, and I was making a genuine effort to try to get to know him, and the pattern presented itself again. He was just staring at me, and he was just looking in my eyes, and he was acting so elated to be on a date with me. And then he said, "You are so beautiful to me." And then I looked up at him and I smiled, because, I was getting ready to like enjoy the moment of the compliment. And then he immediately snatched it back. He said, "Well, you look good to me. I don't know how you may look to anybody else." I didn't say anything to him. I continued to smile, but to myself, I said, "Noted." Because that was that same lesson. Any man who can be in pursuit of you will give you a backhanded compliment, or give you a compliment and then immediately take it away. That's not your guy. That's not your guy. That's not your guy. That's not a guy that you would want to be with. So, we did go on another date because at the time I was still new and allowing myself to recognize patterns and to move along when I see those patterns repeating. So, but by the second day, I was like, something still here is just not right. And actually, before that date, he was at this event that I was at where I was called up to speak, and he complimented me on being in front of the room speaking, saying that you have a great speaking voice. The way you took the stage or took the spotlight, you really commanded everyone's presence when you started speaking. Like, he was complimenting me that day of. And then, but a day or so after that, the moment came back up, and this time he was like downplaying. It was like, well, you being able to speak ain't that big of a deal. And I was like, oh, okay, I see what type of person this is. I see where this was going. But I'm still new to allow myself to recognize the pattern and move along. So I tossed and turned for a few nights. I still was in communication with him. I was trying to find a way to, because I know how men can get when they feel like they're being rejected, and I didn't want him to feel this way. I wanted to be able to let him know I no longer wanted to pursue anything romantically with Grace. So I tossed and turned a few nights with trying to find the right words of how to let him know, like, I don't think we're a romantic match, because my man, the man who is for me, is not going to give me backhanded compliments. He's not going to try to humble me. He's going to celebrate me, and he's going to believe me to be everything that I believe me to be, with it being real, something real. So that's how I knew that we just were not aligned. So, tossed and turned about it, kept talking to him, and I couldn't find the words. And so he had already made it pretty clear that if we were not romantically aligned, he didn't want no more friends. He was not looking for a friendship, which was another thing that made it kind of hard for me to, say I don't want to pursue anything else. But eventually the communication just started to die on its own. I don't know if he could pick up on it, the energy himself, or what, or like felt like he was going into chasing me or what. So we stopped talking, but he did circle back around after some time, and he ghosted me because I was actually the last person to say something to him. And he never responded. So when he finally came back around, he wanted to pick up. It was like 2 months since we had spoke. He came back around like nothing had happened, wanted to pick up, and I was like, no, I'm too familiar with this pattern too. And he wanted me to be his safe space. He wanted me to be the person he could come and vent to. He wanted to really use my energy to make him comfortable in a time he was uncomfortable. Because the time when he came back around, he had some stuff in his business was just not like at his best, and he wanted to kind of vent to me about that. And at first I was open to it, because I'm just that type of person. Like, I'm very empathetic, I'm very compassionate, and I do want people to know that they can come to me, and whatever they shout at me, I'm going to keep it in confidence, and that I'm not going to judge them, and that I am a safe space. But like I said, in this season, I'm not doing it for no one who's not considerate of me, who doesn't care for me in a way that I would care for them. Like, I just cannot. That's who I am genuinely. But just because that's who I am genuinely does not mean everybody gets to get access to that, especially when it's draining and causing a strain on my mental, emotional health and well-being. So I have to be responsible and accountable for myself, knowing that. That way I don't put myself in a situation where I'm now upset with someone else when I'm responsible for me. So I was open to it at first, but then I was like, Trees, these are the patterns you've been continuing. Showing up for men or allowing them to have access to you when they give you backhanded compliments, when they try to humble you, when you can be safe for them, they're not safe for you. Is this really the road you want to go back down again? So I had a conversation with myself, and then I decided, no, I hate that you're going through what you're going through, but I can't let you dump on me. I can't be your emotional dumping ground, especially when you've already shown me your capacity and how you will handle me if I continue to let this go on. So I was proud of myself for that. I did not continue that relationship or that situation because it was not a romantic relationship. It was just us getting to know each other. I did not allow myself to continue that. So I'm very proud of allowing myself to trust myself to be able to say, no, we've been here before. We know how it's going. We know where it's leading to. We're not doing this again. And I haven't heard from him since. And I'm trusting that he's finding the person that he needs to find to be that safe space for him. But I just can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. If I want somebody to come in my life and have integrity with me and how they treat me, I first have to have integrity with myself and how I treat myself. And that's where I start, by saying no to what's not aligned romantically. And in the past, now I'm tying it all back in. In the past, I would try to make it be aligned. I would try to make it fit. I would be that same little girl on the floor trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. A square peg into a round hole. Whatever the case, y'all get what I'm trying to say. It didn't fit, and I was trying to make it fit. And I'm not doing that anymore. Because I've truly gotten to a point where I do care more about myself. And for a while, I've been on this self-love, self-care journey, but it's been performative, doing all the things, but not allowing myself to be, and what brought that back to my remembrance, or what made that stick with me, is that I was on the phone with my brother, just sharing with him about the bad situation that I found myself in last year. And he was like, I'm glad you're done with that situation, but right now what you need to do is you need to love yourself more. I said, I don't need to do that. I need to get back out. I'm ready to start dating. He was like, no, it's something there. He said, I'm not going to say you don't love yourself, but it's something there that you got to get to the bottom of, because otherwise you wouldn't have put up what you put up with this year. So you need to really see why. And even though I didn't like hearing that in that moment, a while after, I reflected on that conversation I had with him. And I was like, no, he's right. I do love myself. I do care about myself. But I'm not embodying the love, the self-love, and the self-care. I'm just performing it right now. And right now in this season, I'm embodying it. I'm not making excuses for bad behavior and character flaws. I am ending things with grace and not letting them get so bad to the point where they have to end badly, or where I am allowing myself to be gaslit versus trusting my own intuition. Because honestly, even in a situation that happened last year, it got to the point it got to mostly because I was trying to ignore my intuition. I didn't believe in my discernment. It's a meme that goes around on Instagram a lot that says, dang, what does that meme say? If you with somebody and they start an argument with you on your birthday, that man don't like you. And I had that happen to me last year, and I couldn't understand where it was coming from. But in that moment, my intuition was like, something is wrong. Something is afoot. But because I didn't have concrete evidence, I kind of pushed it to the side and was like, I can't believe that because I don't have concrete evidence. But something in he tried to pick a fight with me on my birthday when we were supposed to be celebrating. And I couldn't fully understand where it was coming from. Until after the fact, where stuff started being revealed and I saw the truth of the situation for what it was. But it's like those things, like the memes, like it's always a little bit of truth in a joke. And that should have been a sign for me as well. But we live and we learn, and the lessons that we learn are only preparing us for what it is that we say we truly want and what we truly value. So I don't necessarily think it had to happen, but now that it has, I can say I'm grateful for the lesson. It could have been a better way for me learning that lesson, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it. All the same, could have done without, some of the trials and tribulations that the situation brought, but I'm glad it's gotten me to a point where I'm not performing the self-love and the self-care for myself anymore, and that I'm actually now embodying it. Because I'm oh no. Grace extended, access denied. I'm learning I can untangle with grace, and just because I have grace or care for somebody does not mean I have to still be in relation with them to any degree. So I'm glad that I'm recognizing the pattern and disrupting it. And I didn't even want to talk about any experience that I've had as far as dating situationships or romantic relationships. But I said that any little nugget that God gives me about what I should share, I'm going to take it and go with it. Last night I was on a Zoom call with a girl, and she was sharing about how she's excited that she's finally able to speak up for herself in romantic relationships and, recognize patterns and move differently. And I was like, I kind of did a video on that the other night, and I didn't want to really go back that way or talk about it again because I just don't feel like I'm ready. But I feel like being able to see her do that for herself was like God saying, trust yourself. You ready? So I just wanted to share that story with you all. Those stories, it wasn't the same person that I had these experiences with. But I share, it's a pattern, and that's what I do here. I think out loud, I reflect honestly, and I name patterns. So if you can see yourself anywhere in the stories that I just shared, you see a pattern, one that's not healthy for you. Hopefully, this will allow you to trust yourself and show you can disrupt patterns too. And with that, my name is Latrice. If anything here resonated with you, feel free to take what you need. Otherwise, just leave the rest, and I will be back tomorrow.